offensive rebounds in this game for the Thunder.
Westbrook held by Sexton. Oh, he put it down! The steal, the foul, and the two. Westbrook with 12.
Welcome inside the Glory Road podcast. Billy Beebe back with you for another episode, a special episode, an episode near and dear to my heart, as Dan Galinsky is on with me today to, offer his thoughts, maybe debate me a little bit if I don't know his real thoughts on our guy that we're going to be talking a little bit about today. I'm here. I'm going to help. I'm here to take the defense of our man Russ as we head into the 2021 NBA season. Russell Westbrook has received some serious hate, both in the past couple of years and definitely recently after the big trade as he was exchanged for John Wall. Dan, I want to premise this by saying, number one, I know it is not 2012. It is not 2013. I am not stuck in that year. I do not think that's what it is. This is my perspective. These are my thoughts. Okay. And first off, can you identify there has been some hate, a real turn of the tide in the past couple of years for Russell Westbrook? Am I wrong?
Oh, definitely. No. Oh, sorry.
We're talking national media. We're talking the teams he played for. We're talking fans he played for. Russell has his flaws, no doubt. All right. I understand. And, I don't like some of the things he's done. I know he shut out some reporters and really gave reporters trouble. I found that more amusing than anything. Okay. I want to start back at the beginning in the defense of Russell Westbrook. Okay. 2008 NBA draft. Dan, interesting and a bit of a loaded draft. Russ Westbrook, top of the draft. Russ Westbrook at the beginning of the draft, but Derrick Rose at the top. Kevin Love at 5. Michael Beasley actually came before Russ at 2. First defense, Dan, okay? You got Derrick Rose, you got Russell Westbrook. 2 point guards. Obviously, Derrick Rose, the MVP, best player on his team, right? Makes sense. I'm with it. Russ Westbrook, an MVP, just the same. And at times, the best player on his team. Let's talk injuries. That's where the key is, Dan. Injuries, okay? One player, no matter the severity of them, because I think they both have had their fair share of serious injuries. One of them crumbled, both I think emotionally and physically, into the injuries. Really did not recover. Recoveries did not go well. Hurt themselves again and again, seriously. And one of them moved past him, recovered well, and came back even better. And in that situation, that's where I give Russ credit. He had that knee injury in the playoffs. He's had, injuries here, injuries there, and they haven't been enough to keep him out for long amounts of time, and they haven't been enough to spoil his game, where Rose completely got shattered by it, physically and emotionally. I think just became a way, way worse player because of his injuries.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. I think early on, I don't know. I was never like a huge Derrick Rose guy, even when he wasn't hurt. I thought Westbrook early on. I was a way bigger fan before. I didn't love that he would shoot more than KD, but the way he played, it was understandable. His is a very unique passer, has great vision. So I give him the credit for that. And yeah, as you touched on, Rose clearly was a shell of himself after those injuries. And honestly, it was kind of understandable, but I never thought that he really progressed as a shooter until kind of more recently to kind of prolong his viability. Now it's been good to see him do better. But yeah, I'm totally with you on that. It clearly had to have affected him.
I think that's a big thing that people forget. Those two guys, top point guards in their class, No, Russell Westbrook did not tear his ACL or MCL twice, but had serious injuries, and recovered and came back from. Dan, I want to jump to the 2011 finals. Russ was incredible.
Oh yeah.
Both in the run to get there, and he had a game. I think it was either 4 or 5.
Yeah, 2012. Yeah, that game 4 was something else.
2012. Yeah. You're right. I'm sorry. 2012 finals. He was ridiculous. There was a game against Miami that he took it on his shoulders. He had I think it was the third quarter. He was ridiculous, and that's what it is for me. A proving ground that you want to set. It's like that was such a young team, such a team that had no identity, and really you saw it in that finals that they just didn't know who they were or how they wanted to play, and Russ knew who he was and how he wanted to play. And I understand these things aren't playing into what he is now, but I'm just saying this is things to remember and respect about Russell Westbrook. What do you remember most about that finals run for them in 2012?
Yeah, it was a hell of a job by him. I just thought from there he was just gonna. I thought they in general were gonna be there for a while. With how they came back and beat the Spurs, I just thought. I don't know. I guess I get where they were coming from and not bringing back Harden and choosing Ibaka at the time, just for a fit standpoint. I guess I get that, but. It just seemed like they were really on their way, and Russ was definitely at the forefront of that. I thought initially, I actually thought he was a better player than Durant, just from the tenacity, and I thought earlier on he was probably a better defender than Durant was then. But things are funny in the NBA, and even in the Warriors. Honestly, I thought that dynasty would have lasted much longer, and it didn't.
Right.
And injuries, player movement happens, and clearly a dynasty in a market in the NBA like OKC is kind of hard to come by.
So in that game 4, Westbrook, 43 points, 5 assists in what was Miami taking a 3-1 lead, but obviously was them trying to keep that series alive. Incredible performance by Westbrook. Definitely worth the rewatch. He was everywhere. He was 3 of 3 from 3. He ran all over the place. He played great defense. I think he still is and was a tenacious defender. And, I thought Durant was streaky in those finals and during that run, but I thought Westbrook was extremely consistent for them in those games, Dan. So I want to bring up that. The other early things I would definitely bring up is that iconic dunk he has versus the Lakers when they eliminated the Lakers. I'm not sure. I think that's 11. They didn't quite get to the finals yet, but that steal and dunk by Westbrook, that was the first time that like OKC's here as a team. It's not just Durant. Obviously they had moved from Seattle. That was a huge moment in that kind of run. So let's move forward a little bit. I completely appreciate, understand, and have love for the way that he responded to Durant leaving. I think Durant screwed him, number one, not telling him, and leaving in general is one thing, but not talking to him about it, I think, was what it was. I think emotionally and just positivity-wise and not wanting to leave right away was incredible of him. But then number 2, Dan, the talk of, Russ is going off. This is it. He's going off. MVP easy. Like, he's so mad. You know how much pressure that is, that people just say you're the MVP and you have to be great because this guy left and you're going to play mad. And he did it. An unbelievable MVP season, played through the expectations, made the Thunder good. That's your answer to, can Russell Westbrook take a team to the playoffs? Yes, that was him on his own. Pre-Victor Oladipo really being that good. I think, and they got maybe Sabonis. They had Sabonis at that time, and it's just incredible to think about that MVP season. Besides, obviously, the averaging of a triple-double, which take that on a silver platter if you're hating on Russ. But Durant leaving, man, I thought he responded so well, play-wise and attitude-wise.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt when it comes to Russ. You know what you're getting from an effort standpoint, from a commitment level. He's one of those top echelon guys in that way. That's never been a problem for him or a question about it. When he's in the situation that he's in, but yeah, obviously like what happened with Durant, I still think it was the biggest cop-out move probably in the history of the league. That was, I don't know, just such a weak move, and that's not in a biased way as a Cavs fan. It was just like, all right, man. I mean, you just kind of bailed on OKC after you had a 3-1 lead.
Right.
On the Warriors, it would have been really compelling what would have played out had he come back. I feel like everybody thought he eventually would back then, at least I did. And yeah, it was Russ. That was a hell of a year, historic year, however way you want to slice it. And they needed those contributions from him. I mean, I don't know, some of the rebound stuff, like he takes possessions off defensively to kind of just camp out in the paint and gets boards and kind of takes unnecessary gambles defensively. But yeah, then they clearly needed he was the clear focal point for them. Made a guy and probably got Steven Adams paid, frankly.
Right.
And for that year, yeah, or just how he finished out there, I give him all the credit, and I'm sure people in OKC love him for that.
Yeah, I mean, that team probably shouldn't have went to the playoffs, and I mean, mindset-wise,
Probably not.
Russ could have just collapsed, man. He really could have just been like, this is crazy. I can't believe, I just lost Harden and then Durant in the way he did. In an incredible 31, 10, and 10 in that MVP season for him, takes him to the playoffs. I would have to look, but, I mean, he hasn't missed the playoffs. Say what you want about the talent he's been with, but he hasn't missed the playoffs since 2009, maybe. It feels like they were in the 2010 playoffs probably. So, yeah, 2009 is the last time Russell Westbrook is in the playoffs. All right, let's jump ahead a little more. So, the right move, obviously, but it would have been nice to see him play with Oladipo and Sabonis as they got better, obviously, to where they are. But they trade for Paul George. This is another example, Dan, of he just personality-wise, play-wise, George loved him, liked him, liked playing with him. This is another example. Russ can and will play with superstars. There's something about him that people like, that players like. And you want to say Durant was tired of playing with him? I don't think so. I just think Durant saw an opportunity, a quick out, like you said, and took it. And Paul George comes into town, and again, he plays well with him and then battles through what was another, in my opinion, backstabbing. I think that's a super underrated backstabbing. Russ convinces him to sign a 4-year extension, and the minute Kawhi said he'd like to play together, he's gone. And after 2 tough playoff runs, I get the first one with Melo and Paul George, and then the second one, Paul George was an MVP till he hurt his shoulder, and that's it. And he gives up and he goes to LA. And again, Russell Westbrook, not afraid. That was a tough situation, obviously. And I think there was a mutual parting of ways at that point. I don't think he was bitter, and I don't think he forced his way out of Oklahoma City. But I think at that point, it was agreed upon. However, Dan, I just think that, again, can speak to his credit. He played so well with George, and then George, again, backstabs him. A better situation, doesn't have that work ethic he does. I think he responded well to that situation, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there, too. And I don't know, just hearing about like the reports about Paul George being, I don't know, kind of pampered with the Clippers, which, I mean, you get it with Kawhi because he's won titles, but in that sense with Paul George, it just doesn't make any sense because in the playoffs, what has he done?
Right.
And to your credit, yeah, like Russ has proven on the biggest stage that he's shown up. I mean, there were times, I mean, against Utah, I wouldn't say he did great, but it's not like George did anything really when they really needed it outside of the one, I guess, playoff P, whatever the hell you want to call that moment. And yeah, I definitely side with Russ in terms of like these situations, and even more recently with what's happened with James Harden or whatnot there. So yeah, the loyalty has always been there for him now.
Yeah, so let's jump to the Harden situation, right? So he goes to Harden. He does have a big contract, no doubt, but he definitely earned it, and I think he's still earning it. The 1 year in Houston, let's start with Harden, who the two examples I would definitely give are, number one, they're in film, they're waiting for James, and Russ says, let's just start, please. Like, I don't know how long late, but they say he's late. And D'Antoni said, if I start now, we're just going to have to start again when James gets here. And, like, to a guy like Russell Westbrook, come on. And your friend, you know, that guy that recruited you a little bit, asked for you, and you were okay with going there. And now, you know, midseason, he's doing that. Second story we've heard now, Dan, is Russell Westbrook is obviously, you know, talk about the hard work, but he's a man of consistency. Wants to get on the second bus to every game. Wants to get there and be the first one on the court to warm up. Gets there, and then James Harden rents and goes in his own car to every Rockets practice, you know, pregame, whatever it is they're doing. Just an incredible, I think, kind of speak to, man, what kind of situation was he in Houston that this happened? Again, we'll talk about his play in a second, but situation-wise, that just didn't work, and I don't think it was his fault once again. I think that's his third superstar that kind of screwed him.
Yeah. Yeah, there's not much to say there for Harden. We know that, like, the narrative with James at this point, I'm not saying he doesn't want to win, but it's just, you just question the want to, and is he willing to really be coached? And I definitely think Westbrook, it definitely has that willingness. So, yeah, it's hard to disagree with that.
All right, and then let's go play-wise, Dan. Obviously, the jumper is gone and the three-point shot's gone, and that, you know, a tough transition this past year. That Christmas Day game, if you recall, horrible versus the Warriors. He wasn't good. He wasn't shooting well, and, you know, it really caught up with him as far as, you know, what can Russ still adapt? Can he still change? You know, what is it that he's doing wrong, and why is he still shooting, and why is he still taking jumpers? He cut it completely, became a top 3 finisher at the rim. That's what he did for the rest of the year to fit the Rockets, to move well with the Rockets. He cuts it out. He's finishing at the rim in guys' names like Giannis and Joel Embiid. That's how he finishes. That's how efficient and well he can get to the rim and score after people harass him for not being a good shooter, and he knows he's not a great shooter anymore. Same with that, he wasn't a great passer, was he, Dan? No, triple-doubles. You know, isn't a great team player, gets his team to the playoffs on his own. Other people don't want to play with him. Carmelo, Durant, Harden, they're all playing with him. I think at this point, a lot's happened for him, but that turnaround was so impressive. And you know what it got him? All-NBA third team. Russell Westbrook is still an all-NBA player, third team. That's a top 3 point guard and a whatever you want to say, top 15 player, maybe even top 10 if you eliminate some of those names. The respect has been lost for a guy that did so much last year and has been through so much and still is at a high efficiency level.
Yeah, I think he'll be out on a mission this year, I would think. And I don't know, night to night, he's a competitor. We know what he brings in that way. He's a guy that definitely can will you in games for key stretches. He can get guys involved just with his gravity as a driver, and definitely pushes the pace. Is one of the better, more lethal transition guys, and definitely plays bigger than his height.
Let's talk for a sec about the playoffs. Wasn't great. He didn't fit well. It wasn't the same guy that got All-NBA third team. He had COVID. That's the simplicity of it. He hurt his, I think it was his thigh or quad. He hurt his quad.
Yeah, I think
he had COVID. And you want to say, COVID this, and it's like, Ask Myles Garrett, ask Zeke Elliott, ask Von Miller, ask Freddie Freeman, who claims he almost died. Ask all these guys how fun it is to just have that, then try and shake it, then try and play again. And he was still pretty good, I thought, in those playoffs. I thought he still made a difference. Obviously, he missed that first round, which was killer with the quad, but I think Corona in general killed him and kind of ruined his reputation for that, Dan. Again, like almost an unlucky break that he still fights through and does well. If we transition to the trade, I love it. I think it's tremendous for him. If I thought of teams to go to, the Wizards were not one I would have thought of, but I think it's just a surprise, a nice surprise. Let's start with the fact he's going to play. The Wizards haven't had a point guard in John Wall in years. It's been 2 years since he's played. Now Russ Westbrook's going to be there. He's going to be, like you said, he's night to night. In a shortened season last year, he played 57 games. I think they had 20 left, so he missed, 5 games, maybe 4 games. He's going to play every night, and dude's a walking playoff ticket. He's going to get Brad Beal into the playoffs. He's going to make the most of Brad Beal at times, and I think this is a great fit for the Wizards. I am picking them as a Miami-esque story regular season-wise, not a finals run. I think that's a bit much, but regular season-wise – you didn't know what Jimmy was going to do. You didn't know what these young guys were going to do. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, man, Jimmy's a playoff ticket. Like that's what he is. He does it all. And I think in a way Russ and Jimmy are a little similar. Butler has a bit of a jumper but doesn't shoot threes, drives hard to the rim, plays hustle defense, works hard, best shape of his life. How do you like the Wizards fit? Because I'm high on it. I really like it. I think they're going to be a 4 or 5 seed.
Yeah, I'm definitely not going to go that far, just because the Nets are going to be really back, and I think there's some other teams. Miami's not going to go away. I think Philly, they'll figure it out more this year. I'm not a huge Doc Rivers fan, but I think like Tyrese Maxey will help them a lot. Celtics are still there, but and like Toronto's around as well. But and really Charlotte, we'll see what happens there. Maybe Gordon Hayward can stay healthy. Who knows? But it's an intriguing fit with Melo. But yeah, I think with Washington, I think they have a good shot of being like definitely a play-in team for sure. I think they could be like a 7-8 seed. I don't think that's completely far-fetched with him. But can he stay healthy? Is there an adjustment with Brad Beal? I still think after what Beal did last year, it was kind of like a de facto point guard too. I think there's going to be an adjustment level there. But what will help Westbrook is being with Scott Brooks, who was his longtime head coach on the Thunder. That'll probably work out well. Those guys have chemistry clearly. I think he'll really work well with a guy like Davis Bertans, who can shoot from where the hell ever he's from, Lithuania or whatever. He's got that kind of range, so that will help him and pick and pops with him, and will be lethal. I think he'll really work out well with Denny Avdia. That can be an intriguing duo in itself, but we'll have to see if the Wizards play any kind of defense, because I doubt that. And for them to really improve, that's got to be the case, at least to be one of those kind of teams. But I think they'll definitely be like in the 7-8 realm. I don't think that's really that far-fetched.
Yeah, in my Miami comparison, Dan, there you go. You list some names that people I think forget about, and quickly like, oh yeah, Bertans was really good, and Thomas Bryant's okay, and Rui's getting better, and it's Brad freaking Beal playing with Russell Westbrook, and I just think those things are all going to come together. I think a lot of people forget that he had 27, 7, and 8 last year. Incredible. In a year where he was supposed to drop off and people think he dropped off, he made All-NBA third team and had close to record high numbers, playing with a guy that also had record high numbers up there with James Harden. I'm high on Russ. Please, guys, if you're watching, don't give up on this man. He's still up there. A final closing thought there for Westbrook, Dan. I made a historical look at it and then kind of where he is now and some struggles he's had. I don't like the comparison to Allen Iverson at this point in his career. Iverson hit a wall and dropped. And post-Philly, he just dropped off. That was it. The electricity, the running, it all just stopped. Russ is proving that wrong. He's proving that again this year, again next year, again the year after that, he's going to give a team at least 20, 25, 27, whatever, a couple of rebounds and a couple assists, closer to a triple-double than not. I think those stats are going to be exactly the same this year. If I could predict, I'd see 25, 6, and 6, which I don't think the Wizards have any problem with. I don't think they have any problem with a cultural leader. I don't think they have any problem with a guy that's on the floor every night. And that's the problem, I think, that the perspective on Westbrook just is, can't shoot anymore, man, or how many times you want to get knocked out in the second round. And it's like, I think, the respect just shouldn't be lost for him.
Yeah, he's a hell of a player. That's clear. It's tough. It's tough for me to have like an exact comparison to him or for him in a historical context, just because I don't know.
He's one of a kind.
Yeah.
He's one of a kind, baby.
Yeah, I mean he's not necessarily a natural point guard, kind of a combo guard, but plays big, really supreme athlete. I think still probably a top 3 to 4 athlete in the league. Just in a vacuum, really plays vertical, really physical. But it is just odd, though, that his shot has just seemingly gone by the wayside. It usually doesn't happen with guards, but
sure.
But he'll be a Hall of Fame player, no doubt, and he's a guy that can impact a team that's get you out of the lottery type realm. But I just think for the Cavs' sake, I'm just glad they didn't get him, just because I'd rather them not have to give up future draft capital for him. But for the Wizards, I mean, it was a pretty much win-win, given that they didn't have John Wall healthy for 2 years. So, and so it's fine. I mean, they gave up a 1, but it's not the end of the world there. And it seems like a pretty win-win trade. But I'm definitely intrigued with the Beal fit. I think he'll fit alongside him way better than Harden, at least for a year or two. Just impacting winning wise, I think that's better. And I just think it'll be more seamless, at least with Harden. It did take some time for him to really find his role there. And he'll definitely be fun to watch, that's for sure.
All right, Dan, thanks for listening to me rant for a little bit. To the people, I beg you, watch some Wizard games, watch Russell Westbrook, watch his stuff from last season, get ready for it, because I think he's going to have a terrific year. Although I picked the Rockets and Sixers in the finals, so maybe I'll have to eat that like I did. Maybe eat the Russell situation the same way. But Dan, thanks for jumping on. Be sure to follow Dan.
It's Dan Galinsky, but it's at armchair capital QB D, like QB Dan. You can just find our stuff at King James Gospel. On Twitter, it's at KJG_NBA. Thanks for having me on, Billy. It's always a blast, man.
All right. Appreciate it, buddy.
Always.